All right, so I just wanted to go over the Queen's coronation oath, Queen Elizabeth, when she took in 1953, just to sort of read out some of the things. The things which I have here before promised, I will perform and keep, so help me God. So it says, Her Majesty the Queen, in the coronation ceremony of 2nd of June to 1953, one of the highlights was when the Queen made her coronation oath taken from the order of service for the coronation. So remember the coronation oath, that's their job contract. The Queen having returned to her chair, Her Majesty having already on Tuesday, the 4th day of November 1952, in the presence of the two Houses of Parliament, made and signed the declaration prescribed by Act of Parliament. The Archbishop standing before her shall administer the coronation oath. First asking the Queen, Madam, is your Majesty willing to take an oath? And the Queen answering, I am willing. The Archbishop shall minister these questions, and the Queen, having a book in her hands, shall answer each question severally, as follows. I don't know what that word means. Archbishop, will you solemnly promise to swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Union of South Africa, Pakistan, and Ceylon, and of your possessions and the other territories to any of them belonging or pertaining according to their respective laws and customs? Queen, I solemnly promise to do so. Sorry, solemnly promise so to do. Archbishop, will you, to your power, cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgments? So remember, it says law and justice. Really important, right? And the Queen says, I will. Archbishop, will you, to the utmost of your power, maintain the laws of God? Remember I said earlier, laws of God, 10 commandments, common law, all connected. And the true profession of the gospel. Don't know what that means. Will you, to the utmost of your power, maintain in the United Kingdom the Protestant Reformed religion established by law? Will you maintain and preserve inviolably, never heard that word, the settlement of the Church of England and the doctrine, worship, discipline, and government thereof, as by law established in England? And will you preserve unto the bishops and clergy of England and to the churches there committed to their charge, as such rights and privileges as by law do or shall appertain to them or any of them? Far out. How does anyone understand this? The Queen says, all this I promise to do. Then the Queen, arising out of her chair, supported as before, the sword of the state being carried before her, shall go to the altar and make her solemn oath in sight of all the people to observe the premises, laying her right hand upon the Holy Gospel in the Great Bible, which was before carried in the procession and is now brought from the altar by the Archbishop and tendered to her as she kneels upon the steps, and saying these words, the things which I have here before promised, I will perform and keep, so help me God. The Queen shall kiss the book and sign the oath. The Queen, having thus taken her oath, shall return again to her chair, and the Bible shall be delivered to the Dean of Westminster. Man, I wish they would just speak in the way that everyone else speaks. It drives me nuts. It's really hard to read that. Anyway, so the bottom line is that she's taken an oath. The whole reason why you take an oath, just like the medical profession, they need to take an oath, because if you don't, where's your statement of intention, right? So you need to be held accountable to that statement of intention. So that's the whole point of all this stuff. I wish they'd just put it in simpler language, actually. So just wanted to just pause for a moment to grab this one more document. So I'm just going to read some, where are we? Everything's gone crazy on me. Excuse me. My apologies. I might just need to pause again. Whoops. Sorry about that. Got all my documents mixed up. So I wanted to read some the work of David Robinson. This is from his words that removes some of the fallacies and clarifies some points about the Magna Carta. So He starts with the word legal means something relating to the law. The accepted lie is that we have a legal system. We don't. Law only relates to the common laws created for the people by the people under the Constitution. Laws must be granted by the people, in brackets it's got jurors, within properly empaneled courts of law to become law. Everything else relates to corporate rules, which are today treasonous. Admiralty rules are used within corporate business today as they are not courts of law. None of them are. You cannot legally accept the legal or illegal fiction, own it, or try to pay alleged debts with it. To do so is to be party to the fraud, i.e. which is doublethink and illegal. Magna Carta 1215 was not made null and void because King John sealed it under duress. He did not have a sword to his throat. He was a tyrant, and he did not want to give up the divine right of kings to be able to continue his tyrannical reign of terror without being subject to the law. Magna Carta 1215 was not made null and void by Pope Innocent III in 1216. King John's barons, his peers, refused to allow it. They also refused to pay tribute to the Pope, nor would they allow the Pope to appoint his representative as Archbishop of Canterbury. Magna Carta 1215 was not repealed by Parliament in 1297. Parliament illegally created Magna Carta in statute form and continued to repeal the statute version to deceive the people and usurp their sovereignty. We do not give our rights away to the, and in brackets he's got frankly useless, barons when we swear an oath of allegiance to them. It is lawful protocol to swear an oath to defend the realm via the barons, who should be by law directing the descent. Under the circumstances, because we are sovereign and they are mere barons, we are duty bound to take the matter into our own hands as they are AWOL. I suppose we should be grateful that they invoked Article 61 at least. The Barons Committee acted according to the correct protocols of constitutional law, which is Article 61, when they invoked it, except for one detail, that being they should have sought an audience with the usurped Queen in person. Instead, they went through her private secretary, Sir Robin Janvrin. What a weird name that is. That does not mean its invocation is null and void, and the already usurped Queen replied to the Baron's petition via her private secretary, who would have been committing perjury and treason if he had not delivered the correct reply. The reply did not state that the Magna Carta had been repealed or was null and void. If that had been the case, then she would have ignored the petition or stated that to be the case. She did neither. Treason is the core problem that we all face today, even if most people don't realize it yet. Treason equals no courts of law, which equals no peaceful remedy, which allows all the crimes of state to go unpunished, which is why they commit their crimes so blatantly and without fear of prosecution. So I'm just going to hold that point for a moment, right? So while we keep protesting, while we keep doing these, legal challenges, while we keep, these my will letters and using legislation to protect ourselves from the fraud, which, the legislation is the fraud, like they know that they can keep doing what they want. Right? So that's what this basically says, that if you want this to stop and be done with forever, we need to go and use our actual constitution. That is how it will be resolved, because it's undeniable. All right, so here we go. Deal with the treason and all other crimes can also be dealt with by the people, not the corporations. Simple. And every one of us would benefit. Lawful descent is not free man on the land. The two movements are entirely separate. We are not rebels or outlaws. We are legally, by royal command, dissenting against the usurpation of a constitutional monarch. Rebels act against authority of a state or nation, whereas we are acting with lawful excuse against the lack of authority. We are the only people within the entire realm that are standing under the law. Everybody else not standing under Article 61 at this time is an outlaw outside of the law. We have a written and codified constitution, Magna Carta 1215, and the coronation of Charles II in 1661. He was the last constitutionally correct oath-standing monarch, are written. The Constitution provides a systematic code of conduct or protocol. That's really important. See, because it's systematic and it's a code of conduct and a protocol, that's where the power is. When it is fully observed, therefore it is codified. An act, bill, or statute cannot be considered law unless it has been granted royal assent by a constitutional monarch, not Parliament. That's really important, right? Parliament doesn't have the right to grant constitutional assent. And you think about what happened after 1973 here in Australia, right? They created the Queen of England, the Queen of Australia, to do that very thing, a fiction, to grant assent to fiction. I'll carry on. And allowed to remain on the statute books by the people, which are the jurors and judges. So I'll read that again. An act, bill, or statute cannot be considered law unless it has been granted royal assent by a constitutional monarch, not Parliament, and allowed to remain on the statute books by the people, which are the judges and the jurors. So only once it gets past the constitutional monarch, and then it's got its second trial, and which is by the people, then can it only remain on the statute books. The people have the last say and therefore govern by consent. That's how we govern, by consent, right? So if for somehow it slips past the monarch, we are the last defense against it being, unjust. A constitution cannot be an act. An act of Parliament can be repealed by Parliament. Therefore, an act of Parliament cannot be permanent. And no Parliament can bind its successors. The laws of the people, which is the Constitution, remain in perpetuity forever. And everyone, including the King, are bound by them unless or until the people decide otherwise by constitutional convention. So that was really important about an act of Parliament cannot be permanent or bind its successors. And the laws of the people, that's the actual Constitution. The people write the laws. And I said that in earlier presentations, right? And they remain in perpetuity because laws are something that are permanent, right? So that sort of repeats that whole understanding. Now I'll carry on. Parliament cannot ever be sovereign. Parliament under a constitutional monarch is Her Majesty's Parliament. The constitutional monarch holds the sovereignty of the people in trust as the holder of the office of sovereign, and is bound by the coronation oath to protect the people's laws and customs, aka sovereignty, and the 10 Commandments. The people's sovereignty is only in place whilst the people, or in brackets he's got jurors, can annul government legislation. So I'll read that again. The people's sovereignty is only in place whilst the people, as jurors, can annul government's legislation. That's the only way we can ensure it. That's that safeguard that I've been going on about. We are not policed or governed by consent today. We are policed by tacit agreement, which means your silence. And so whenever these politicians get on and tell you what's coming and you stay silent, they're taking it as you agree. Deception or by force only. So if you go back to the original ones, I showed you these men, these private mercenaries that are calling themselves police. They do it by force, as it's right in your face now. Magna Carta was specifically designed to unite the people. We must compel others by law to stand under Article 61 also. The only way to defeat institutionalized treason by peaceful means is to unite in order to become a threat of a bigger force against the force of the state. Tyranny has never surrendered without the threat of force. So that's really important. If we unite, then we become the force. And we haven't done that yet. And we have a mechanism that does it in a peaceful means. That's why this is so powerful, because if you act peacefully, they can't use force against you. We cannot resume as before with regard to the usurped and deposed monarch, like it says in the Magna Carta, Article 61. This is because of the longevity of the treason, which goes back to at least 1666, when King Charles II committed a breach of his coronation oath, and treason against the sovereignty of the people when he granted royal assent to the Sesta Civi Act. That's that fake trust that when you're born, they sign you up to that trust with this all caps name that they give you, that looks like your family name, but it's actually not because it's in all caps. And then you're signed over into that trust like your property of whoever owns that. I think it's the Vatican. A constitutional convention of a re-educated peoples will be required to decide the future for a properly democratic way of life. All right, I hope that explains exactly what the power of the Magna Carta is and why it's still in force. So I'm going to leave it there, guys, and I'm going to leave it to you to decide if you want to do your own research and start deciding whether this is a course of action you'd like to take to actually end this for once and for all and safeguard not only your future, but your children's and your grandchildren's future, so this never ever happens again. All right, that's it for me. Bye now.